Warrior Wrestling on social media and find event and ticket information online at warriorwrestling.net.
Warrior Wrestling 24 is going to be great. And, like you mentioned, all the special guests as well. So we're excited. Everybody should come check it out. If they've never been to a Warrior Wrestling show, it's going to be so accessible, right across from the, on the doorstep of the Forbidden Door, as you told us, right?
Yeah, it's a big deal. There's a lot of amazing wrestling to see in one day. You can come over and see the matches that we've previewed already, and then move on and go over and see the Forbidden Door show. And like I mentioned, I am going, and I'm sitting in the 300 level, and I don't care. It's just I knew I had to be in the building for whatever's going to happen, no matter where I'm sitting. And history's it's a history making show.
Yes, I agree. It definitely is. I think we're probably going to see some of the greatest shows ever, that are yet to come for Warrior Wrestling. I think they've always put on great shows. Then we got the Stadium Series coming up. We have Kylie Ray versus Athena announced.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. Rikishi's announced, and that's, I believe, on July 27th. But before we get there, let's talk a little Freelance. Freelance, how emotional was it for you to call Freelance versus the World? How did you think, what was your thoughts quickly about the show?
It's awesome. 8 years. I think, before the cameras started, I talked to the crowd a little bit, and, I asked who was there with us, at the Abbey when it started. And there was at least a dozen people in the room who started with us 8 years ago in the Abbey, and, continued throughout the venue changes. All the way up now to, our current home in Logan Square Auditorium. And then I asked, who was new, and there were like 30 or 40 new people too. And that's like every show we get these new people that are coming, just by word of mouth, and many of them, not only have they not been to Freelance before, they've never been to a wrestling show before. And then, and I talk to them at the end of the night. I usually make it a purpose of mine to like see them, and they're like, oh, I'm sold, I'll be back, and then they do, and they come back. And so yeah, 8 years is a long time. And, Freelance wasn't supposed to make it. You know what I mean? There was already another big company in Chicago that had kind of a stranglehold on the Chicago market. And I'm not being disparaging. I'm not saying who, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. And when I say they had a stranglehold on the market, I'm not being negative, but they did. They were the big dog, right? And we came in and probably shouldn't have survived against them. They probably should have put us out of business a long time ago, and we didn't go anywhere. And the reason I believe Freelance was as successful as it's been for the past 8 years is the fan base. That group of fans is unlike any other. I've worked in front of some amazing fans, and the Freelance faithful, as I like to call them, are unlike anything else. A new guy shows up in the building, they know nothing about him, and they see that oh, he's good, boom, they're in. They co-sign immediately and like get behind this guy. Space Monkey was the first one for me. Like, who is Space Monkey? Space Monkey was nobody. He was a guy that rode in the car with ego, and he got in front of that Freelance crowd, and they went nuts for him, and they instantly made him a star, and just continued to root for him, show after show after show for years in Freelance. And they're a very magical audience. So to be able to do, Freelance versus the World now, for the 8th year, 8 years running, it was a pretty magical night. It was a lot of great things happened. We crowned 2 new champions, technically 3, because we crowned new tag team champions in the Bang Bros, Davey Bang and August Matthews, in what was supposed to be a traditional ladder match with the belt hanging from a construct that they designed, but there was a little bit of a problem with that I won't get into, but we were not able to do the ladder match the way that we wanted to. Right. But we still went ahead and had a ladder match. So the ladders were still legal, and Pick and Pop and the Take It Home Wreckers and the Bang Bros had an amazing match. And the Bang Bros came out on top and are now your new Freelance Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And then in the main event, Robert Eagle Anthony and his stooge, Frank the Clown, yes, dropped the belt to Storm Grayson, who's been there for 8 years, you know, yes, and now he finally gets to be the guy. You know, he gets to be the guy that takes us into the next era. And he is really coming into his own. You know, a couple of years ago, he was using the moniker, you know, the Green Kid. You know, even though he had been in the business for 5 or 6 years at that point. And, you know, he's not a green kid anymore. You know, he can go tit for tat with anybody. And then alongside him, we have Brian Keith, who won the Legacy Championship last show. So between the last 2 shows, all of our championships have changed hands. So it's almost like a new era, a new beginning, yes, right? Now it's a jumping off point. Where is everything going to go from here? You know, so I'm very excited to see, you know what continues to develop. And we made a really huge announcement at that show, you know, right there in Logan Square Auditorium. Mick Foley, the hardcore legend himself, Mick Foley is going to be on our August 5th show. And very, very excited for that. I've been blessed to be able to work with Mick before at Warrior, but I'm very excited to work with him again and get him in front of that Freelance crowd, because, like I said, they're so special.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where Freelance heads from here. We have Press Start, which is going to be the next show at the Emporium as well, so that should be exciting. I know you'll be out of town for that one, but we know that it's going to be Bussy versus Elaney Luck, GPA. You know, the new you know, they remind me of the Miz. I don't want to say that, but you know what I'm saying. They remind me of the Miz and Maurice. You know,
they like to call themselves.
I'm just trying to tell the audience, you know, what if they not familiar with them, what their characters are like. You know what I'm saying? Or Ty Conti or Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti. There you go. There's a better example, right? They're obnoxious, pretentious, and
right. They consider themselves the power couple in professional wrestling, and that's saying something because there's been a lot of them, like you just mentioned. Yeah. Them and Bussy, and I believe this is the first time Bussy will have wrestled in Freelance. We've certainly had Effie there before. I don't believe we've had Alley Catch in a Freelance ring. I could be mistaken. I could be, but I'm not sure that I am. She might have been on that Chicago Summit show, but I'm not positive.
I think you know what you're saying. I think she was too, but I'm not positive either. But I know she was there that week, that she was there that night hanging around. Yeah. I'm not sure if she wrestled or not.
But so it's our first time having Bussy as a team in front of the Freelance crowd, and that's gonna be an awesome match. Yes. Very much looking forward to that. And we have a debut. One of the Freelance Academy students is going to be making her debut at the Emporium as well. And I'm going to be missing that, but I'm actually not sure what her name, what her worker name is. Okay.
I actually had her on my show, Cam Raython.
Yes.
Cam Raython, yeah, she's been like, you know, working with Freelance as the pre-show attraction, you know, like they do these dumb games, you know, silly games, and she's been doing tickets, you know, doing ticket door. You've probably seen her tear down a ring or two. She's a very athletic, young, and she'll be part of that show. You'll have to catch our interview with Cam Rathel. We got to get to learn about her background.
I've been talking to her for about a year at shows, and I seek her out at every show because I can already see her heart. You know, I can see that she's got a really good heart for this business and a good approach to, you know, to what she's doing. And she got hurt for a while and, you know, still stuck with it. And, you know, now she's going to be having her debut match, and I'm sad to have to miss it, but I'm still very proud for her. So Cam, if you're watching, you know, have a killer match. I'll be there for you in spirit.
For sure. And the Freelance Academy, we had a plug in from James about that. It's a great place. I don't know if you ever visit there.
I have not been to the new building. I have not been to the new building yet.
Yes, but if anyone wants to be a wrestler, you can check out the last podcast I did, and we talked about a little bit at the end. And I'll post all the info on this podcast. But you know, Kirby, I thank you again for being on PWE. You know, we'll have to catch up again, certainly. And I will see you this Sunday for Warrior Wrestling 24. And that's another thing. Is it interesting to you? And that's what I'm just thinking right now. That Warrior doesn't have a name for their show. They have a number. And this just popped in my head. They're Warrior Wrestling 24, 23, 22. But, you know, other shows like Freelance, they name every event. What do you think is like the pros and cons of that? Like you personally?
It's always weird. It's weird to me because I often forget, because so many shows that I work have names, and then I get to the show and I say to myself, okay, oh, so what's the name for tonight? And I go, and then I remind myself, like, oh, there is no name. But then it's like, it's harder to remember a number than it is a name. You know what I mean? So it's like, what number are we on again? 22, 23. So that's actually something I have to check my sheet multiple times and like, okay, this is 23. This is 23. Don't forget it's 23. Because, you know, if you're doing, you know, Freelance versus the World, you're not going to forget that. You know, it's the Freelance versus the World show. But, you know, you start getting in the 20s, it's like, which one are we on again? It's almost like trying to remember the date. Like, what's the date today? Is it the 17th, the 19th? No. So it's kind of like that. But, you know, I think the idea there is that it's not necessarily about any one thing, that, you know, that it's just the Warrior show, the Warrior name it's just selling itself. You know, we're not trying to, you know, have it be any particular gimmick, although there are some shows that revolve around a gimmick, like the War of Attrition match being on a show, the Get My Shot Invitational being on a show. So there are shows that, you know, probably could have a name, but I think it's just the idea that this is Warrior Wrestling, you know, and that's what you're getting. And so I think that's the identity, and it's just that's the branding. It's Warrior Wrestling. So it's a different approach. I think Gali does it too. I think Gali numbers its shows, but I think Gali also uses names. But Gali numbers their shows as well. But they're up in the like hundreds of shows now.
Yeah, so. 518 was the last one.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Well, that's what happens when you run a show every single week and sometimes twice.
I know. I don't even try to keep up with the numbers. I just remember Gali Anniversario, Gali Mania, and you know they number those individually. So those are the only ones. But yeah, man, let's hope it goes to Warrior 100 one day, right? And we're still there. Yeah. We're still kicking it.
It keeps me working, you know, and
exactly.
and I, you know, and I say, I almost regretted saying it keeps me working, because it's not about that. You know what I'm saying? It's not about having a job or anything like that. It keeps me in a business that I love. Yes. It keeps me doing a job that I look forward to every time I step into a building, no matter where that building is, no matter how many fans show up, no matter who I'm working with. It's a business that I'm very passionate about, you know, and you know, it's you know, it's not my shoot job, you know, it's something I do on the side.
Right.
And, you know, you have to love it though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because for me, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, for me, every wrestling show, unless I take my kids with, like I do to Warrior shows typically, but there's a lot of shows that I can't take my kids with because they're bar shows. But unless I take my kids with, that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours that I'm away from my family. And I'm a very family oriented person. And, you know, for me to be willing to be away from my family,
Right.
sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a month, it's got to be something special that's making me do that. And wrestling is that for me. And, you know, and I'm thankful to have shows like Warrior where I can bring my kids and have them get that experience as well.
Definitely.
And have them get to see dad, you know. And my daughter had a shirt made once, you know, my dad is kind of famous. You know, she had a shirt made especially for her. And I have shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Nice.
Oddly enough, I have a shirt, and my kids both have that shirt and they love wearing it.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's, you know, that's pretty cool. You know, so wrestling is a very magical thing. For me, you know, it was the thing. You know, I know you're trying to end the show here,
No worries.
but you know, you got me on a tangent about just what wrestling means to me. And for me, my dad and I didn't have a relationship. And the only thing that got my dad and I in a room together was professional wrestling on the TV. And as a kid, that was pretty much the only time he had anything to do with me, is he would allow me to watch wrestling with him. And then years later, when I became an adult, and we had a pretty bad relationship, we mended our relationship with professional wrestling as well. During the Attitude Era and during the Monday Night Wars, I would pick up like some Chinese food. He would call me up. He's like, fat boy, you gonna get some food and come over and watch the wrestling over here with your old man tonight? And I would go over and I would watch a couple hours of wrestling with him once or twice a week. And we actually mended our relationship because of professional wrestling. So yeah, it means the world to me, and it's a very magical, special thing that, you know, makes people a lot of happy, and it makes the rest of the world go away. When you're watching those guys in the ring, larger than life, doing what they do, everything else goes away. Your bills don't matter, your relationships don't matter, the bad week at work you had doesn't matter. It all goes away for a few hours, you know, and you just get lost in the story and the spectacle of professional wrestling.
What a great way to put it, and a great way to end the podcast. Kirby, the voice Alexander, and we will catch you at Warrior Wrestling 24. If you see him, go say hi to him. If you go to be a freelance show, yeah, definitely go say hi. And we will post your link to your Pro Wrestling Tee store. I didn't know you had one, so yeah, I'll post that. Usually, I ask every interview at the end, hey, how does it feel like when you see a fan wearing your shirt and stuff? And I didn't even realize that you had it. So
it's through the Freelance store. So you have to get my shirt through the Freelance store on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Oh, got it. I'll find it and post a link. And I appreciate you, Kirby. Have a wonderful night. And
you as well.
Get rested for Sunday. Long day ahead for both of us. You know, so take care.
Sounds good, my man. Thank you very much for having me. Fan base, thanks for listening once again. We'll see you around.
All right. Take care.